And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 431. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvey, and I'm joined by my co host, Matt Smith.
Good afternoon.
So here we are, post deadline. It's Saturday, the 8th of March. Um, you know, some stuff happened, some stuff didn't happen. I guess we could talk about it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it was kind of what we expected to happen. Not a whole
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. So Montreal didn't do anything, or did they? Because, not making a move is a move because they kept all their UFAs. So
Yes.
they already had a bunch of rentals.
Yes. And apparently there was a like when Ken Hughes did his press conference, he talked a little bit about this and he without really saying it, he pretty much said that those guys were out the door and Nick Suzuki came and talked to him and he pretty much gave him an ultimatum and said put the team on your shoulders and we'll see what you can do. And since then they're 5-0-1. So um he was able to show management to keep the team together. However, a lot of people from the outside, a lot of uh, a lot of analysts are even saying that the Canadians maybe should have went out, looked at a second line center, or maybe looked at bringing somebody in for the
I
stretch.
agree. I agree. They do need a second line center. I mean, it's blatantly obvious. But what are the costs for
It's
that,
all,
right?
yeah, it's all in the
And you,
price.
you you're paying an exorbitant fee because it's deadline time.
That's right.
Teams are trying to get these guys. So you
Yep.
have bidding wars, the price is higher. And had they gone out and paid the exorbitant fee to get a second line center, would that fundamentally change where they're at in this rebuild
That's
right
yeah,
now?
really hard
No.
to say. Really hard to say. We know that there was discussions with other teams. Obviously, we don't know who. There's a lot of speculation. One of them being Dylan Cousins, which we'll get into in a bit. But there is that hole. And now I'm looking at the remainder 20 some games that are remaining. The Canadians are still sitting outside of a wild card spot by a couple points. As we record, it is 5:40 Eastern time. The Sens already played the Rangers and defeated them in overtime. So a 3-point game for teams that they're chasing right now, and the Boston Bruins are currently leading the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-0 after making a
Easy, hate to
slew
see it.
right after making a slew of trades, right? So again, like every point counts at this point in the season, and I'm looking at a guy like Nick Suzuki, as I said, that since the break he has been phenomenal. He's put the team on his shoulders just like
Yeah.
the general manager asked him to do. However, you look to prolong these 20-minute plus games that he's now had to play, being
Yes, that's the thing.
really he's taken the role of 1 and 2C. Because and that's not a shot at Owen Beck, but when Owen Beck's only playing, I think he only put 8 minutes in the last game,
But almost nine.
right?
Almost nine. Come on,
Right,
let's not shortchange him.
right, and Suzuki I think paid 24. I know, yes, he played in overtime,
Yeah.
but still 24 minutes. And you can't
That
you
is a
can't
lot of ice time.
and you can't do that against these top teams. Like, but the thing is, you're going to want your best players on the ice when it matters most to get these important points. I find that he's showing a hell of a lot of leadership. Let's just say that he's leading by
Yes.
example and he's playing really hard and everything like that. And I think that this is going to translate to management making some moves just this summer.
Well, there's definitely going to be moves this summer, but for right now, the deadline. I mean, having your own rentals. There was like we talked about in the last episode, right before when we previewed the deadline. There were offers on the table for players like Armia and for Savard, and it's come out now that it's a couple of second round picks. Had this been last year, those trades probably would have happened.
Probably. Yeah.
But because of where they're at this year, because of what Suzuki has been able to lead these guys into, and I'm not saying that they're going to. make it to the playoffs, but the fact that they're fighting for a playoff spot and you're building that winning room, that desire to win, the effort to win, and putting in that effort and supporting that effort for these players, that's going to go a lot further than a couple of second round picks that probably would have been in 2027.
Right. I agree.
I mean, it was, should they have done anything more? Sure, they could. Well, they could have, but um, at what cost? Like staying out of overpayments was probably the better way to go. Like we can go right into it now with the Dylan Cousins thing.
Sure.
Cousins,
Yep. We can jump
it
right
was
into
an
that. Yeah.
interdivisional trade
Yeah.
between Buffalo and Ottawa,
Yeah.
and Cousins went one way, Norris went the other. There was some other odds and sods in there,
Right.
but those were the centerpieces.
Yes.
Pardon the pun.
Aha.
Uh,
I've
Now
got the
I can
I get the
understand.
full I'll get the full breakdown just because I got it right here anyway. So it was Cousins, Dennis Gilbert, and a second round pick, which that threw me right off. That the fact that the Sabres had to throw a second round pick in this. I don't know. I think this was just robbery from Steos right from the start. For Bernard Docker, who's a former first round pick who's really done nothing at the NHL level, and Josh Norris.
Josh Norris is an extremely good
Yeah,
player.
when he's healthy,
He's
he's a good player.
when
Yeah,
he's healthy. Like he's tough to play against. He can put up points, but he's not that big bodied physical centerman.
right.
But Dylan Cousins can be.
Yeah, but he's
So
also a guy that can disappear at a moment's notice.
true.
He's either the focal point or you don't even notice he's there.
And with that in mind, and with the trade value that you just gave, Doc and a first and some prospect is probably not going to surpass what Ottawa provided because
Right.
Buffalo wanted NHL players.
Yeah.
And Doc, yeah, he's an NHL player, but he is nothing to the Josh Norris level,
Right.
except in injuries.
Oh, absolutely. Which is
But
unfortunate, but
it is, yeah.
I think that like just kind of just a little sidetrack to Kirby Doc there for a second. He was brought up at the press conference as well, and it was kind of
Yes.
interesting how he answered the question. He didn't really go out and say, "Oh yeah, we brought this guy in to be a second line to be our second line center." He said that he had success on the wing, he had success at center, he's had success when he's been healthy, etc. So I'm wondering if maybe we're gonna see more of a Kirby Doc to the wing maybe next season.
I would almost guarantee it. If I had a betting line of some kind, I would put heavy odds on him becoming a winger on this roster. So you got a bunch of guys that are showing up next year. Obviously, Demidov, he's a winger. Then you got and they're going to try and find a second line center. So that's your first two lines are done.
Yep,
Newhook then moves down.
yep,
He's plays center, but he's more of a winger as well. Beck, Kapanen. I mean, Evans is still there. Who knows? Dvorak might be re-signed. Maybe
yeah,
super cheap. Who
yeah,
knows? But the point is he's being pushed out
yes,
and down the lineup, and that means a couple of guys have to go. At least two guys on this current roster are gone,
right,
possibly three.
yeah,
So if he's staying, it's not going to be in a top six role, and
no,
it's more than likely on the right wing.
yeah, I'd say so, yeah,
Not that I'm against that.
no.
Moving him down and moving him over takes the pressure away. So maybe that helps.
Look what it's done to for Gallagher and Josh Anderson,
Exactly.
especially
Like they
Josh
move.
Anderson.
Yeah, he was more overdue
Right.
for what's going on, and Gallagher finding his his impactful form again,
Yeah,
uh, that was really really helpful, especially for this season with a young team. Having a veteran like that step up, that really helped. But
absolutely.
yeah, no, I absolutely agree that he's Doc is going to be moved down and over. So there was you're looking ahead at the summer now, trying to get that second line center. Pierre McGuire on the Sick podcast was talking about trading Michael Hage as part of a package. Depending on who it is, okay, but they got to be really fucking good.
Yes, they got to be careful. You got a rookie in the NCAA right now who's a point of game player. You want to tread
On a shit
carefully with,
team.
yeah, you want to tread careful with that, especially with the story of Michael Hage. We won't get into it right now, but everybody, the fans that are listening that are Canadians fans, you guys know the story. And I think that it would be such a great end to the story to see him in a Canadians uniform. And I just kind of feel that he would have that extra boost behind him at all times.
Yeah. And
So, so
if you're
I personally don't think he's going anywhere, but it is an
no
interesting name to bring up
true, and it
because we
has to
haven't
be
got attached to
somebody.
him yet.
Yeah, yeah, it is, but you look at the story behind him, so it's like a destiny thing. But you look at what he's doing with Michigan, and
Yeah,
Michigan's not a very good team, and he has carried that team. You look at this year's draft. James Hagens is one, two, or three on every single draft board.
yeah,
He's 18 years old.
yeah,
Hage is 18 years old. Granted, he's about 6 months older, but they're about the same age. They're in their freshman year in college. Hagen's on a Boston College team, which is stacked, has less points
yeah.
than Michael Hage on a crap Michigan team.
Right.
And Hage is actually playing a two-way game as well. Hagen's, he does play that, but he's not as advanced. Granted, he's not as old either.
Yeah.
That says a lot. Like you got a guy who went 21 last year who could possibly go in the top 10 this year had he been born a little bit later.
Right.
That's worth a lot. So that centerman had better be an established 30 goal kind of guy. If you're going to give up that kind of prospect,
Yeah.
plus plus,
Yeah.
they
I
got to be
think it'll
good.
be. I think it's going to come down to. I think there's going to be moves made anyway. But if the Canadians
Yeah.
get closer to a playoff spot, or let's just throw it out there, they stumble into the playoffs in a wild card spot, and it's like, holy shit, we did this without making any moves and not, moving any of our future pieces, and did it with the team that we started with. Is that
Yeah.
extra ammo to say, okay, let's go out and do something. We've got money to spend. Yes, there's players that are going to get raises next year, so some of that money to spend that they would have had, they don't have. You have the Evans deal. He's only going to be another, just over a mil. You got the Slafkovsky deal that starts next year, and you've got Caden Gooley's deal that starts next year as well. So, but they still have money, and the cap's going up. And they've got some prospects coming in that are going to get into the lineup, like Demidov, who's going to be on a league minimum contract,
Exactly. You want to take advantage of that as well. You
right?
got 3 years of this kid at a cheap rate
Yeah,
when you know damn well that if he comes in and does what is expected and at the low end of what is
yeah.
expected,
However, however, you've only got Lane Hudson for one more year at 950K, and
who's
then
also going to get a big raise.
he is going to be getting a big raise.
Yeah. Thankfully, the cap's going to be going up again.
He's still not going to be able to buy alcohol because he still looks like he's 14, but he's getting a big
Well,
raise.
it's good thing he plays in Canada. He can
Yeah.
buy booze up here. Not American booze, but he can buy booze.
Yeah. I want to
Um,
get some champagne. ID, please. Fuck.
you gotta be able to look above the counter.
Exactly.
So yeah, so, I mean, I would grade the Canadians' lack of movement as a B plus.
Yeah, I'd say so. My BB plus. Yeah. Like we
They could
we
have
we
added
talked
a
about we
center.
talked about it in our last show. Like they could have added, yes, but there was a lot of could have moves that did not move,
Yeah, exactly. And the
right?
cost. It's
Yeah.
down to the cost.
Yeah.
Like it could be a lot friggin' worse. For those who are pissed off that Hughes didn't make any moves, you could have the Pittsburgh Penguins GM who
Yeah.
made a dozen moves and none of them made any friggin' sense at all.
The only one that they made that I was like, okay, that made a little bit of sense is when they traded for Shen. And then they flipped Shen and they got a second and a fourth. I'm like, okay, I get that. I get that. But then they also dove in at the last second to help out the Leafs, taking 2.2 million from the Leafs. Boy Wonder comes in and picks up a former Sioux guy and Connor Timmins, and for a fifth round pick, brings in two bottom players so they can help his former team out. So
Well,
I get it, but at the same time, it's like, give me a break, right?
no,
Like
I totally understood that
you've
move though.
taken a very good team traditionally and kind of just dumped them into the ground, right? So
True. But I see that trade specifically, he's like you said, he's a Sioux Greyhound
yeah.
and he loves those old Sioux Greyhounds.
Oh, I
And
know.
Timmons's advanced stats are
Oh
excellent,
yeah, advanced stats. Gotta love advanced
but
stats.
I mean, you can argue for or against. It doesn't matter. It's a tool.
Yep,
Unfortunately, in this case, the tool is that GM.
that's right. Yeah.
So
But anyways,
yeah,
seeing that we talked about a trade, let's bring up a couple more.
sure.
Mikko Rantanen, last year of a deal.
Jesus.
Last year of a deal. He was making 9.25. He was traded. He went down to about a 4.6 something. Goes from Carolina to the Dallas Stars and then signs an 8-year deal worth 12 million a season. Dallas receives Logan Stankoven, who was excellent during that tournament in Halifax,
Yeah.
he's I think he's going to be a very good NHL player. Two firsts and two thirds.
So that move by Carolina, when they made the trade with Colorado, I was scratching my head. Why would Colorado give up that player?
Yeah, same here. Same here.
Now, I, I'm scratching the skin off my head, wondering what the hell happened here.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm looking at it from the Carolina standpoint. I'm thinking to
yeah,
myself, why would you make that trade without the assurance to know that you can sign the player long term?
exactly,
Because we've
exactly.
seen now what Marty Nikash is doing in Colorado, and he wasn't just like a throw in. Like he was a big piece of that deal, and he's found success in Colorado. And now you've
Yeah,
got Mikko Rantanen, who many people thought was just going to stay within this core because he's had so much success with the Colorado Avalanche. Now he returns to the Central to a division rival.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. Which makes perfect sense for Dallas. What Dallas paid was, I mean, that was a pretty hefty price, but that's for Mikko Rantanen. That's
right,
worth it.
yeah.
Um,
But you look at their team, and they've got a stacked team in the West. They've got a
they're gonna
great
have,
defense. They've got a great
yeah,
defense. They got some great guys on the offensive side of the ice, and then they've got one of the better goalies in the league. So they're set up for a few years.
as long as you don't get end up with Dallas and Winnipeg in a first round, I'm happy.
Yeah,
That would
is your
suck.
yeah. Well, it's either going to be probably what Dallas, Winnipeg, or Colorado, Winnipeg, or Dallas, one of those mixtures.
Exactly.
So
So,
a good team is going to be out in the first couple weeks of the playoffs.
which Hey, get your hockey watching in that first round if you want to see all the best teams, because
That's right.
wow, there's a lot of them that are going to beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the Atlantic Division
The
just
Atlantic
went
Division. Yeah.
full out.
It
They
did.
went
Yeah.
full send on the trades.
Yeah.
Even Detroit went and picked up players.
It wasn't much, but they still did something. Yeah.
They still did something.
They just still did something. The one something that a lot of people are talking about, and I've already brought the team up once, is the Boston Bruins. They shipped out a lot of players and still beat Tampa today. So I don't know what the fuck happened there, but um, the main one being their captain, Brad Marchand. He was in the final year of his deal. There was speculation that he was going to move, and well, he moved, and they retained half his salary to make the move. It's a conditional second, which guarantees pretty much going to turn into a first because he's just going to play 50% of the games, and the team needs to win 2 rounds. I can see them definitely winning 2 rounds with the team that they have, and I just want to see once if he gets healthy, I want to see it's a Chuck Bennett Marshawn line just for the optics. Just for like even if it's the start of the game, first shift, I just want to see it. And I
Well, if
think
you
the
really
league
want to
wants to
go
see
optics,
this.
oh God, yeah. And if you want to go optics, Marchand comes out and does the rookie lap, but in
Yeah.
the rat costume.
Yeah, exactly.
They said the team that throws rats on the ice just picked up another rat to throw on
Oh,
the ice.
I know, right? But you know what? Like this was a guy that I thought was going to be a Bruin for life. He's been there forever,
Yeah,
and the only core piece that's still left on that team is David Pastrnak. So you go out and you've got him, and then you sign Swayman to a big deal. Pasternak's on a big deal. Like this is a team that, again, even though they beat Tampa today, um, they're on the downside. They're on the downside of the success that they've had.
it's clear they're trying to do a massive retool on the fly, and they've kind of kissed the season goodbye.
Yes.
But and they're gonna go all in on in the summer. But could you imagine? I can't imagine David Pasternak's face when he walked into that dressing room. It's like, okay, who are all these guys?
Right.
Where's
Right.
where's Brad? Like
Yeah, and you know what? I'm wondering how he is going to look in a Florida Panthers jersey because Florida went
I
out
think
and
he'll
they
look
got,
fine.
but I think he's going to have a lot of impact. I really do, just based on how that team plays. And don't forget, they also picked up Seth Jones,
Yes, they did.
right?
Now,
So
a lot
so
of people shit on Seth Jones, but that's a guy that can play 25 plus minutes a night,
right,
move a puck.
yeah. And if
Him and
Bobrovsky's on his game, Florida is definitely the team
they're
to
a
beat in
wagon.
the East. Yeah, yeah,
They can absolutely be a wagon. Then you got Tampa Bay who went all out and added a
yeah.
bunch of players.
Yeah, brought back
Um,
Bjorkstrand, or brought in
yep,
Bjorkstrand, brought back Yanni Gord.
yep, yeah. So they're they're not the wagon they used to be, but that's
Yeah,
a very experienced roster
yeah,
with a lot of good pieces that they could make noise in the playoffs too. So
definitely could.
getting out of the Atlantic is going to be hell. Then
Right.
you look at the wild cards. Who's going to be the wild card? Is it going to be Ottawa?
Could be Columbus.
Could be Columbus, who are buyers at this deadline, picking up Luke Kunin.
Yeah.
Um, who else do they get?
Hell, could be the Rangers. Right. Like they're kind of on
Could
a
be,
resurgence as well. Right. So
but they were buying and selling. It was kind of like
yes,
a really bad day at the stock market,
absolutely. Yeah.
up and down, up and down.
Yeah. Flyers did the same thing.
Yeah,
Right. So, and I'll just kind of get into their deal really quick. They sent Scott Lawton to the Leafs. Leafs pick up a third line center. So it's Lawton a fourth and a sixth for Nikita Grabakin, who I thought he looked decent during the preseason.
yeah.
And a
Back
and
check
for
for check paycheck.
yeah, exactly. And a first round pick. So then Toronto also made a deal with another Boston Bruin, Brendan Carlo. big defensive defenseman. He's in a year four, making 4.1 mil. They retained, I think, 15%. Gave up another first round pick and Fraser Mitten. And it's kind of funny how Leafs Twitter kind of turned on Fraser Mitten as soon as that deal was made. They're like, well, he wasn't that good of a prospect anyway, and he wasn't this, and he wasn't that. And at least we didn't give up Easton Cowan, and at least we didn't do this. You still gave up two first round picks.
Are you telling me that that entire fan base is in cope levels?
Oh, Jesus.
Like, I don't know why they would try to be downplaying what they gave up.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter. You got
Yeah.
Brandon Carlo.
Yeah.
This is a guy that beat the shit out of people in the corners. He's not going to put up a ton of points, but he
No,
plays a ton of minutes
he
and he
does.
plays hard.
Yeah, he's a good
He
penalty killer, and he teams don't really score a lot when he's on the ice. Let's just say that,
or
right? So,
yeah, they know when they run on the ice with that guy. That's a Craig Berube player if I've ever seen one.
right. So it'll be interesting to see if the Leaf system is going to work with him, or if he's just going to go and his career is going to die like most players do and go to the Leafs. But not to throw sand on the Leafs or anything, but
True.
they're playing Tampa or they're playing Florida in the first round.
Now, as much fun as it is to shit on the Leafs, and I have done my share,
Hmm.
believe me, the biggest thing that I've had about their roster makeup is they lacked forward depth and they lacked those minute munching physical defensemen. So now they got Tanev. Now they got Carlo. They went and picked up Lawton, who's going to play center on the third line, which moves Domi over to the wing. You finally have three solid forward lines.
But they had that
The
before.
fourth line,
But they had it
it's
before,
okay.
right? Yes, they got a better defense.
True,
They did, but
true.
they had it before. They had Ryan O'Reilly. They had Austin Matthews. They had John Tavares. That's a fucking great top three or a
Yes.
top nine for centers. Let's just say
But they
that.
didn't have the defensive core that they have now. This is
They
a
didn't,
much better core,
and they didn't have the coaching.
but it'll just make it that much more special when they lose in the first round of Florida.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Yeah.
Hilarious.
It would be, or it will be. Let's just say
Yes.
that. Just going back quick to the Leafs, though,
Yes.
something that came out just before we started recording. Apparently, they were in on the Mikko Rantanen talks, and the Carolina Hurricanes asked for Mitch Marner, and apparently the Leafs considered it and asked Mitch Marner, and Mitch Marner said, "Nay, I'm not going to waive my no move." So another pending UFA, another guy that puts up mad points for the Leafs, another guy that's been, say, let's just call it true blue since he come in. He's from the area. He played for the London Knights. He was drafted by the Leafs, developed by the Leafs, has turned into a star for the Leafs. So I'm wondering what that's going to do for negotiations, or if he's just going to be like, I'm going to see what I can get elsewhere.
If he is scapegoated again by that fan base, he's gone.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. Um, as for the deadline itself, I think while Washington didn't do a ton, they did a little bit to solidify themselves, and they're still they're my pick at this point to get out of the Metro. Um, the Atlantic is going to be a hellscape.
I think so.
Those first two rounds are going to be horrible because you got four teams in there that could eat that'll beat the shit out of each other, and three of them are some of the top 5 to 10 teams in the
Right.
NHL.
Right.
So it's going to be. I think that's the toughest division. I don't know who would come out of that, but my guess is it's going to be either Tampa or Florida.
I think it's going to be Florida. I just do. I just think they're too deep. They're too deep of a team.
Yeah,
And
they
when
did the
you
biggest
have,
moves.
yeah, like if Chuck comes back and he can be healthy and he can make an impact and he's well rested, having
Should
him,
be.
having Bennett, having Barkov, having Marchand, having these guys that have won cups, that have led teams, that have been there, I
They
just
like dicks.
Yeah, exactly, right. But then even on the back end, you've got Forsling, you've got Barkov or not Barkov, you've got um
Ekblad.
Ekblad, you've got Seth Jones, right? You've got like they've got a good team.
Yeah.
They've got a really good team.
And they got the goaltending.
They've got the goaltending.
So does Tampa.
Yeah.
Toronto does not match up with that at all.
When he's like, when
They're
Stolarz is on
okay.
his game, when Stolarz is on his game, yes.
He's still not a Bobrovsky. He's still not a
That's
Vasilevsky.
very true. That's very true.
So I think overall, out of the entire trade deadline, I think um, Florida in the East were the ones that made the most impactful trades. You know,
Right.
they really went out. They had a need. They got the best player possible for that need.
Yeah, I'd say that.
In the
Yeah.
West, I would say it's Colorado who made the biggest moves.
Yeah.
Like he's been juggling around that lineup throughout the season with changing out all the goaltenders,
Yeah.
but going to get um, Brock Nelson
Charlie Coyle,
and
another Boston
Charlie
Bruin.
Coyle, yeah, another Boston Bruin. So they've turned their center depth, which was an issue, into something that's actually a strength now.
Right.
Because you got McKinnon, Nelson, and Coyle. One, two, three.
Yeah.
Coyle moves back down to where he should be. He's a middle six guy. He's not a top line guy like he was in Boston. They're going to be a tough team to beat, but they're also in a division of death.
Yes.
So
Yes. When you got Winnipeg and Dallas there, it's
yeah,
kind of gloves are off. Like whatever team comes out of that deserved it. Let's just say that.
they definitely whoever comes out has earned their way out. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, and to tie it back into the Canadiens, as we only have a few more minutes, um, all those moves that we saw were for teams that are trying to keep their window open right now. So for anyone that's crapping on Hughes for not trying to keep pace, saying, well, all these teams got better, you didn't, which is true for right now.
Yeah.
But going into next season, things are going to look a lot different. 2 years down the road, a couple of those teams are going to be on the downward swing.
Yeah. And
So,
I brought this up before, mostly on our last show about
yeah,
how the cap's going up so much the next few seasons. And yes, I know you're going to have to pay some of these guys. You're just kind of like forecasting the amount that you're going to have to pay a guy like Demidov or Lane Hudson. However, the fact that you have Caulfield signed to 31, Slavkovsky signed to 33, Suzuki signed to 30, um,
all for under eight.
all for between 7.6 and 7.875, you're doing okay. You've got all your core guys right there, and you've got a very good defenseman in Caden Gooley signed at a respectable 5.5 till 31. 2031, that is. All right. Yeah, not the age, right?
Yeah,
For those listening.
exactly.
And you've
Like
also,
there's
right? And you've also
there's money
got,
to go get somebody too.
yeah, and you've got money coming off the books anyway. Like the retained salary from Allen, the retained salary from Petrie. Next year, you've got Carey Price's 10.5 coming off, right?
Which
So,
doesn't really impact them through the season. But that what people don't understand is that's a massive anchor in the summertime
yeah,
because
yeah,
they can't go more than 10% over, and there's a lot of intricacies about LTIR through the summer as well.
yeah, yeah,
So that simplifies things
right.
extensively.
So it's going to be
But I
interesting.
mean, they've got the bone the skeleton to this team already signed up.
Yes.
A couple RFAs to extend, but it's the cap's going up by 25 million over the next couple of years, so they should be fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. Um, did you have any last points?
Just thank everyone for their ongoing support. I know that we haven't been able to get shows out on the regular. This is the fastest we've done done two shows in quite a while. It's unfortunate Shrek couldn't join us, but hopefully we can continue making the effort of getting these shows out to everyone. And again, thanks for everyone for the support.
I'm going to echo that sentiment, and I want to provide a little shout out to our supporters. BioSteel, code Habs Unfiltered, save 20% on any purchase at BioSteel, and No Name Hockey, code Habs10, save 10% on anything you purchase there. Reminder: they're both 100% Canadian. So remember, Canada, elbows up. And for everyone that's listening to us, thank you very much. And remember, if you're talking about it, so are we.